Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? I want to welcome you back to another episode of the I AFYL Podcast. And today, here's what we're talking about. We're talking about comfortability and what happens when we stay comfortable. This could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Is it bad? We're going to talk about some of the things that happen when you know what? It's the biggest mistake. One of the biggest things that we overlook when we get comfortable in our lives and our experiences. So, man, I'm super excited this morning, 13th of March. And here we are. We're just getting back. Bunch of my friends. We were all at the 100X conference out in Dallas, Texas this past weekend for the past actually 4 days. It was just really an amazing time praising God. Think about this, praising God and really working on business. And like I told my wife, I said, man, I told my wife and my brother, this is my church, like 100X, being around people who are willing to get uncomfortable, being around people who are willing to move past their fears and, you know, what was normal for them. It's just an amazing time in life. So, man, comfortability is an interesting thing because we are hardwired. I want you to think about this. We are hardwired for comfort. Our minds search comfort. Our minds hate, literally, our minds hate uncomfortability. And our mind is always looking to be comfortable, to have security, be out of danger. And this is just how we're hardwired. But we're also hardwired for uncomfortability. And the uncomfortability is where we find our strengths. You probably didn't know that. In your uncomfortability, in my uncomfortability, I find that I can do more than I ever thought I could. Oh, is that true? Let's think. I remember, well, I don't quite remember, and you may not remember either. I was really uncomfortable, and you may have been uncomfortable the day that you started to walk, the day that you tried to walk. You probably fell down hundreds of times, you know. And there was times when you didn't even get up. You just crawled on the floor, and I just crawled on the floor. I remember there was a time that was so uncomfortable. I remember there was a time when I couldn't utter a word, and I was like, you know, when one day, you know, I think my older brother had done something. I was very young. I might have been like 2. I might have been between 1 and 2. Now, my older brother Reggie, I think he was old. He's old enough. He was old enough to actually remember what happened. And my older brother had done something, and I couldn't talk, and I was trying to, but nobody could understand me. I was like, you know. But yeah, I think my older brother my oldest brother had done. I think he took an egg out of the refrigerator, threw it on the ground, and blamed it on my brother Reggie. And Brother Reggie was like, no, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. But Mom wasn't listening. Mom was like, oh, I'm going to bust you up, you know. But I'm sitting there in the baby chair saying, no, that's not true. But no one understood. See, in order to do anything in our lives, it's going to make us uncomfortable. In those days when I couldn't talk, I couldn't walk, I couldn't pick anything up, I didn't know how to get dressed. That was very uncomfortable. Until one day you could just do it. And now you don't have to think about it. But here's the danger. See, the danger that we get into is that we think after we've learned something, we don't have to learn anymore. Look, I did this. I got out of college, and I remember getting out and saying, I'm not going back to school. I'm not doing anything else. I'm good. I'm not doing that anymore. Do you know that I was so adamant against not going to school that I wasn't really keeping myself educated? See, education is the mother of learning. See, I'm not even going to say you because I don't even know. I was, what was I going to say? See, I was indoctrinated in a situation where I thought if I just went to school, if I just read the book, then I would know it. Ooh, no. I've read a lot of books, and I can tell you that just because I read the book doesn't mean I did what the book said. But me, not gonna say you because I don't even know what you did. I just know that coming through the systems of learning, higher learning, and whatever learning they are, I came out and I didn't know anything. I felt like I didn't know anything. Had a degree in accounting, felt like I didn't know anything. I had passed a certified public accountant's exam, and I felt like I didn't know anything. What? See, we have to find ourselves in uncomfortable situations in order to actually get to the new level, in order to be the person we were created to be. And so it's like you get the CPA, you pass the CPA exam, but then there's a next uncomfortable level. It means that, okay, what next do I need to learn? Well, now I need to put into practice all of the principles that I've been reading about, all of the principles that I've been studying, all of the principles that I've been looking over and trying to figure out how they work. And see, when we stay comfortable, when we're put in situations that are uncomfortable, we shy away. Yeah, we shy away. We want to, kind of like logically think about things. You know what? I'm not going to put myself out there if I can't see all the steps. Uh-oh. There's a book. It's called Ready, Fire, Aim. And in the book, the premise of the book is, okay, you can get ready, but you just got to fire the gun. You just got to go bam. Wherein a lot of times we go, I'm gonna get ready, and then in getting ready, then I'm gonna go ahead and aim first. Let me aim at my target. I can't quite see the target. Oh, you know what? Let me get a different gun. I'm gonna get this gun. Oh, you know what? This gun's not powerful enough. Let me get the smaller one. I think this smaller one's good. And I don't know if I'm gonna have enough power in that one. Well, let me get one more, and I think I can see it. Phone rang. Oh my goodness, let me put this down real quick. and and so we live our life trying to aim, but never shooting. That's why when we get to the point where we're comfortable with something, that's when we should be afraid. Oh my goodness. It's kind of like I have to like I've been comfortable doing podcasts. And you know what? I've got to get uncomfortable. I've got to change the format. I've got to change how I'm doing it. I got to change how I'm talking about it. I got to change my delivery. I got to change the length of the podcast. I got to change. And this morning as I was listening to a story about the children of Israel, and so I'm gonna just talk briefly about this, and I'm gonna let you go because this is the premise of the whole podcast. It's children of Israel, and way back when Joseph saved was the reason the children of Israel was saved, and because of him being in power in Egypt, then his family was able to come to Egypt and live. And then because his family was able to come to Egypt and live, then that's when the children of Israel expanded and became huge. Now, before Joseph died, he told his brothers, he said this, he says, God is going to come visit you. God's going to come visit. I think you can pick the story up somewhere around Genesis 50. But I'm not going word for word here. God's going to visit you. And in God visiting them, we don't know what that means. God's going to visit you. So imagine this. They got big. And while they got big, what happened? What happened in Egypt? The Pharaoh of that day did not know Joseph. He was like, wait a second, who are these people? These people are not Egyptians. And why are they here? Wait a second. They're so big in number that they may try and overtake us. And so he literally just went and took all the men, enslaved the women, and got rid of all the male babies. What? He did that. In the story, as I was listening to it this morning, the visitation of God came through Pharaoh. That's the visitation of God came through Pharaoh. Now, I can't get into the details right now because the podcast is going to end in just a couple of minutes. But go read the story. The visitation of God came through. Now, God wants to take them into a new land, and that wasn't the land. That was a temporary space. But here's what happened. They got comfortable with where they were. And because they got comfortable with where they were, they totally forgot. They forgot who the heck they were with. They forgot all about who God was. Go study the story. I may talk about it again, but I'm not sure. And here it is. They got comfortable in their situation. And so here it is. The visitation of Pharaoh is like God visiting. But God visits, but he has to shake them up. He has to get them back into shape, and it's going to get worse. You know what? Look, it's kind of like, I don't want God to come and I ain't ready. If God shows up and I ain't been doing what I've been doing, I might get a whipping. And in essence, that's what they got. They got a whipping because they got so comfortable with where they were, when if they were focused on who God said they were, they would have known that was a temporary land. They would have known that, but they didn't. They got so comfortable that in order for them to learn, they had to get a bad lesson. Anybody here want a bad lesson for being comfortable? Well, we get them all the time. Situations happen in our life, and we're like, oh my goodness, these things happen. These things happen as a result of complacency. These things happen as a result of not following the order in which God has asked us to follow. These things happen because, man, I hadn't discovered my purpose. And so because you haven't discovered your purpose, which, man, I had plenty of time to do it. I had lived 40 years before I even jumped on the path. You couldn't have discovered your purpose in 40 years? You could have. Only if you knew that you should be discovering your purpose. This comfortability leads us into a bondage that we know we don't want. But a lot of times God has to put us in bondage in order for us to get to the point where we will listen. And usually people listen when things get bad. It wasn't until things were bad, that's when they listened. But they wouldn't have listened to Moses, and I'm going to let you off here. They wouldn't have listened to Moses had things not gotten really bad. Like, really? Well, think about it. What if everything was going good? And then Moses showed up talking about, hey guys, we're going to leave this land and we're going to go to the land that God is calling us to. They would have looked at Moses talking about, leave this land, the land where we prosper? No, we're not leaving. What land are you in? What land are you in that you're comfortable to the point where you won't leave? And if you're comfortable, then that means, look, you don't want God to visit. Because if God visits, then that means there's going to be pain, a lot of pain. There's going to be a lot of pain before there's any pleasure. So I know this was just these are cliff notes of some of an understanding that I've come under so that I can live my life better, right? Being uncomfortable, that's of the devil. Look, you got to be uncomfortable to get comfortable, and then you got to get uncomfortable again, and you got to do that over and over and over again. So what happens when you stay comfortable? All I can tell you is pain is coming, and if you don't want the pain, get uncomfortable, move into a land that you know that you know, you're like, well, you know what? Instead of being comfortable, I'm going to move and start doing things that stretch me, because those stretchings are going to help you to literally keep the visitation away. We don't want the visitation. What we want is God to bless us because we're moving in the direction that he's calling us. So guys, I appreciate you for joining me for this episode of the Account for Life podcast. Jay Moore, the Healthy Accountant, helping you to account for life. God bless. I'll see you on the next episode. Peace.
Thanks for joining us, listening friends. We are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.